I kept my brother's infertility a secret from my wife and she announced her pregnancy at my birthday party. Now my whole family is furious and my brother won't speak to me. I'm Eric, 28 male, and I've been married to Felicia, 27 female, for 3 years. We met in high school when I was a sophomore and she was a freshman. I still remember the day she transferred to our school. She walked into our shared English class, and I was immediately captivated by her warm smile and bright eyes. We became friends first, bonding over our love for classic literature and bad 80s movies. It wasn't until our senior prom that I finally worked up the courage to ask her out. We dated all through college, attending different universities but making our long-distance relationship work. Those years were tough, but they also solidified our bond. We'd spend hours on video calls, studying together, sharing our dreams, and planning our future. After graduation, we didn't hesitate to tie the knot. It felt like the natural next step in our journey together. Felicia has always dreamed of having kids. Even back in high school, she would talk about how she wanted a big family someday. I'd listen to her plans, smiling and nodding, but never really sharing her enthusiasm. Don't get me wrong, I love Felicia more than anything, but the idea of being a father has always terrified me. There's a lot going on in my family that Felicia doesn't know about, which is why I've been so hesitant about having children. My childhood wasn't exactly picture perfect. My parents, Tom, 60 male, and Linda, 58 female, were always more focused on their careers than on their children. They're both high-powered lawyers who spent more time in the courtroom than at our soccer games or school plays. My older brother Alex, 32 male, and I often felt like we were raising ourselves. We'd make our own dinners, help each other with homework, and try to navigate the murky waters of adolescence without much parental guidance. Don't get me wrong, our parents provided for us materially, but emotionally, they were often absent. This lack of emotional support left its mark on both of us. Alex became fiercely independent, throwing himself into his studies and later his career. I, on the other hand, became more introverted, always second-guessing myself and my abilities. The thought of being responsible for a child's emotional well-being when I'm still dealing with my own issues is overwhelming. Felicia, in contrast, is amazing with kids. She works as an elementary school teacher and has this natural ability to connect with children. It's like she has some kind of superpower when it comes to kids. I've watched her in action during school events, effortlessly managing a room full of energetic 8-year-olds, each one hanging on her every word. Everyone in our family admires her for this gift. I remember one Thanksgiving, a couple of years ago, when Felicia single-handedly entertained all the kids at the family gathering. She organized games, told stories, and even got my usually sullen teenage cousins to participate. By the end of the day, all the parents were joking about hiring her as a full-time babysitter. Seeing her in action like that always makes me smile, but it also intensifies my own insecurities about parenting. For the past year, I've been dealing with a difficult situation in my family. My brother Alex and his wife Sarah, 30 female, have been trying to have a baby for years. They started trying right after their wedding 5 years ago, assuming it would happen easily. But as months turned into years with no success, they started to worry. They've gone through multiple rounds of IVF, each one more emotionally and financially draining than the last. I've watched my strong, confident brother become more dejected with each failed attempt. Sarah, who used to be the life of every party, has become increasingly withdrawn and depressed. I didn't tell Felicia about their struggles because Alex asked me to keep it private. He's always been a private person, and he didn't want everyone knowing about their fertility issues. Plus, our parents were already putting a lot of pressure on them to have grandchildren. Mom would make not-so-subtle comments at every family dinner about how she's not getting any younger and wants to be a grandmother while she can still run around with her grandkids. Last month, on my 28th birthday, Felicia threw a big party and invited all our family and friends. She said she had a surprise for everyone. I didn't think much of it, assuming she'd planned some kind of special cake or gift. The party was at our house, and Felicia had gone all out with the decorations. There were balloons everywhere, a huge happy birthday banner, and even a photo booth set up in the corner. The party was going great. Alex and Sarah were there, seeming to be in good spirits for once. They were chatting with my college buddies, laughing at old stories. My parents had shown up, making a rare appearance at a family event. Even my aunt and uncle from out of state had made the trip. It felt good to have everyone together, enjoying themselves. As the evening was winding down, Felicia gathered everyone around for her announcement. She clinked her glass to get everyone's attention, her eyes shining with excitement. Then, she excitedly told everyone that she was 2 months pregnant. She had stopped taking her birth control pills without telling me, hoping to surprise me with a baby. The room went silent. I was shocked, not just because of the pregnancy, but because of how my family reacted. Alex's face turned pale, and he stormed out of the room without a word. Sarah burst into tears and ran after him. My parents looked furious, their eyes darting between Felicia and me. Felicia's smile faltered as she looked around the room, confusion and hurt evident on her face. The party quickly dissolved after that. People made awkward excuses and left, leaving Felicia and me standing in a living room full of half-eaten cake and deflating balloons. As soon as the last guest was gone, Felicia turned to me, demanding to know what was going on. I had to explain about Alex and Sarah's struggles, and how they had just found out last week that their final round of IVF had failed. Sarah had been told she would likely never be able to conceive. I watched as the color drained from Felicia's face as she realized the impact of her announcement. Felicia was devastated. She had no idea about any of this and felt terrible for causing pain to Alex and Sarah. She was also angry with me for not telling her about the situation. We had a huge argument, with Felicia accusing me of not considering her part of the family by keeping her in the dark. She felt betrayed and excluded, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. I tried to explain that I was just respecting Alex's wishes for privacy, but Felicia wasn't having it. She argued that as my wife, she should be privy to important family matters. The argument went on for hours, bringing up other instances where she felt I had shut her out of my family dynamics. Now, Alex and Sarah aren't speaking to us. My parents are furious, saying we were insensitive and selfish. Mom called me the day after the party, yelling about how we had ruined what should have been a joyous family moment. Dad sent a terse email saying he was disappointed in my lack of consideration for my brother's feelings. Felicia is upset with me for not being honest, and I'm feeling guilty and overwhelmed by the whole situation. I don't know how to fix this mess. How can I make things right with my family without hurting Felicia? And how do I deal with the fact that I'm going to be a father when I'm not sure I'm ready for it? The thought of being responsible for a tiny human being in just 7 months fills me with dread. What if I turn out to be as emotionally unavailable as my own parents? What if I mess this up? I love Felicia, and I want her to be happy, but I can't shake this feeling of panic every time I think about the baby. I don't know how to talk to her about my fears without hurting her feelings or making her think I don't want our child. I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of expectations and responsibilities that I'm not prepared for. Update 1. It's been a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. Your comments really helped me gain perspective on the situation and gave me the courage to have some difficult conversations. After reading your comments, I realized I needed to have an honest conversation with Felicia about everything. We sat down one evening after dinner, with no distractions. I turned off our phones and made sure we had plenty of time to talk. It wasn't easy, but I opened up about my fears and insecurities about becoming a father. I told Felicia about my childhood, going into more detail than I ever had before. I shared memories of missed piano recitals and empty seats at graduation. I told her about the time Alex broke his arm, and we had to call our neighbor to take us to the hospital because our parents were in court. I explained how these experiences had left me feeling unprepared and unworthy of being a parent. Felicia listened patiently, her eyes filling with tears as I spoke. She had known bits and pieces of my childhood, but hearing it all laid out like that was overwhelming for her. She held my hand and assured me that I wasn't my parents, that the very fact I was worried about being a good father meant I would be one. We also discussed her decision to stop taking birth control without telling me. She admitted it was wrong and apologized, explaining that she thought I just needed a push to realize I was ready for fatherhood. She confessed that she had been feeling the pressure of her biological clock and was worried that if she waited for me to be ready, it might never happen. We agreed that in the future, we need to make these big decisions together, no matter how difficult the conversations might be. As for the situation with Alex and Sarah, Felicia decided to reach out to them. She spent days drafting a letter, pouring her heart out onto the page. She explained that she had no idea about their struggles and apologized for the pain she unintentionally caused. She shared her own fears about the pregnancy and expressed her hope that they could support each other through this journey. To our surprise, Sarah called Felicia a few days after receiving the letter. Their conversation was emotional but healing. Sarah explained how difficult the past few years had been for her and Alex. She talked about the toll the failed IVF attempts had taken on their marriage and their mental health. She admitted that seeing Felicia's pregnancy announcement had felt like a knife to the heart, a reminder of what they couldn't have. But Sarah also said that after the initial shock wore off, she realized it wasn't fair to blame us for their pain. She acknowledged that life goes on, and that their struggles didn't mean everyone else should put their lives on hold. By the end of the call, they had made plans to meet for coffee. I was relieved to see this positive development, but Alex was still not speaking to me. My parents, however, were a different story. When I tried to explain the situation to them, they dismissed my concerns and insisted that Felicia and I should be overjoyed about the pregnancy. They couldn't understand why I was apprehensive about becoming a father and accused me of being selfish. Mom went on a long rant about how she and Dad had provided us with everything we needed, and how ungrateful I was being. This conversation made me realize how much my parents' behavior had affected my view of parenthood. I decided to set some boundaries with them, explaining that while we appreciate their excitement, Felicia and I need space to process this change in our lives. I told them that if they couldn't respect our feelings and decisions, we would have to limit our interactions. They didn't take it well, but I stood my ground. As for Felicia and me, we started attending prenatal classes together. At first, I was reluctant, feeling out of place among the excited couples. But as we learned about the development of our baby, saw the ultrasound images, and heard the heartbeat, something started to shift in me. I'm not completely over my apprehension, but I'm working on it. We've also started couples counseling to work through our communication issues. It's been helpful in addressing some of the underlying problems in our relationship and preparing us for the challenges of parenthood. Our counselor has been guiding us through exercises to improve our communication and helping us develop strategies for supporting each other through this transition. There's still a long way to go, especially with Alex. I've tried reaching out to him several times, leaving voicemails and sending texts, but he's not ready to talk yet. I'm trying to respect his space while also letting him know I'm here when he's ready. I'm learning to be more open with Felicia, sharing my thoughts and fears instead of bottling them up. She's learning to respect my feelings and concerns, even when they differ from hers. We're facing this new chapter in our lives together, and it gives me hope for the future. It's not going to be easy, but for the first time, I'm starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, I can do this. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Felicia is now 5 months pregnant, and we've been slowly adjusting to the idea of becoming parents. However, recent events have thrown our family into chaos once again. 2 weeks ago, Alex finally agreed to meet with me. We met at the local park where we used to play as kids. It felt fitting, somehow, to have this conversation in a place that held so many childhood memories. We sat on the swings, gently rocking back and forth, the awkward silence stretching between us. Finally, Alex spoke. He explained how hurt he and Sarah had been by Felicia's pregnancy announcement. He talked about the pain of watching everyone around them start families while they struggled. But he also admitted that their reaction had been overly harsh. He acknowledged that it wasn't fair to expect the world to stop because of their pain. As we were talking, Alex received a call from Sarah. His face went through a range of emotions as he listened, and I could tell something big was happening. When he finally understood what she was saying, he turned pale and almost fell off the swing. Sarah had just found out she was pregnant. It turns out that their last round of IVF, which they thought had failed, had actually worked. Sarah's doctor had made a mistake in reading the test results. She was already 4 months along, but due to some health issues, she hadn't noticed the symptoms. Alex was in shock. He didn't know whether to be happy or terrified. After years of trying and failing, they had almost given up hope. Now, they were facing a high-risk pregnancy due to Sarah's health complications. The doctor had warned them that there was a higher than usual risk of miscarriage or premature birth. I tried to be supportive, telling Alex that this was amazing news and that Sarah and the baby would be fine. But Alex lashed out, accusing me of stealing their moment. He said that if Felicia hadn't gotten pregnant, they could have enjoyed this miracle without feeling overshadowed. He talked about how they had always imagined announcing their pregnancy to the family, how they had dreamed of being the ones to make our parents grandparents for the first time. I was hurt by his words but understood that he was overwhelmed by the situation. I reminded him that this wasn't a competition, that there was enough love to go around for both babies. We parted on tense terms, with Alex saying he needed time to process everything. When I told Felicia about Sarah's pregnancy, she was overjoyed for them. She immediately wanted to reach out and offer support, but I advised her to give them some space. The situation was delicate, and we didn't want to overstep. Felicia was disappointed but understood the need for caution. Meanwhile, our parents found out about both pregnancies and have gone into overdrive. They're constantly calling and texting, making plans for the babies and talking about double baby showers. Mom has started knitting matching blankets, and Dad is talking about converting his home office into a nursery for when the grandkids visit. Their enthusiasm is overwhelming, especially given the complex emotions involved. Felicia and I are trying to navigate this situation carefully. We're happy for Alex and Sarah, but we also feel guilty about the timing of our own pregnancy. We want to be supportive without intruding on their experience. It's a delicate balance, and we're not always sure if we're getting it right. As for our own journey, Felicia and I have been attending parenting classes and setting up the nursery. We spent a weekend painting the room a soft yellow, debating over furniture arrangements, and assembling a crib, which took far longer than the instructions suggested it would. My initial fears about fatherhood are still there, but they're slowly being replaced by a cautious excitement. Feeling the baby kick for the first time was a surreal experience that brought tears to my eyes. However, the tension with Alex and Sarah is casting a shadow over what should be a joyous time for both couples. I'm torn between wanting to mend our relationship and giving them the space they seem to need. Every time I see a cute baby outfit or a toy in a store, I'm hit with a mix of excitement for my own child and guilt over the pain we've caused Alex and Sarah. The next few months are going to be challenging as we all adjust to these new circumstances. I'm hoping that eventually, this shared experience will bring our families closer together rather than drive us further apart. But for now, all we can do is take it one day at a time and try to support each other as best we can. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I can hardly believe how much has changed. Felicia is now 7 months pregnant, and Sarah is 6 months along. The past few weeks have been a roller coaster of emotions for everyone involved. About a month ago, Sarah experienced some complications with her pregnancy. She started experiencing severe abdominal pain and was rushed to the hospital. Alex called me in a panic, his voice shaking as he explained what was happening. Despite our past issues, Felicia and I didn't hesitate to be there for them. We spent several anxious days at the hospital. Sarah had to be hospitalized for a week, and it was touch and go for a while. The doctors were concerned about preterm labor and were doing everything they could to prevent it. During this time, Felicia and I took turns staying at the hospital, providing whatever support we could. Felicia spent hours at Sarah's bedside, keeping her company and helping her stay positive. They talked about their pregnancies, shared their fears, and even started planning playdates for their future children. It was heartwarming to see their friendship blossom despite the rocky start. Meanwhile, I helped Alex with practical matters, like taking care of their house and pets. We spent long nights in the hospital cafeteria, drinking bad coffee and talking about our childhood, our fears about becoming fathers, and our hopes for the future. This crisis seemed to break down the walls between us, reminding us of the strong bond we'd always shared as brothers. Thankfully, after a week of intense medical care and bed rest, Sarah and the baby stabilized. The doctors were cautiously optimistic but advised Sarah to take it easy for the rest of her pregnancy. The experience seemed to put things into perspective for all of us. Alex apologized for his earlier behavior, admitting that he had let his pain and fear cloud his judgment. We had a long, honest conversation about our shared anxieties about becoming parents and how we could support each other. As for our parents, we finally had to set firm boundaries. We explained that while we appreciate their excitement, their overbearing behavior was causing stress for both couples. To our surprise, they listened. Mom agreed to hold off on the matching outfits and Dad promised to stop sending daily emails with parenting advice. They're still excited, but they're making an effort to be more considerate of our feelings. Alex and I have started a tradition of weekly brother nights. Sometimes we go for a drive, other times we just sit in my backyard, talking about our fears and excitements about becoming fathers. It's been healing for both of us to open up about our childhood experiences and how they've shaped our views on parenting. We're both determined to be more present and emotionally available for our children than our parents were for us. As for Felicia and me, we're in the final stretch of preparing for our baby's arrival. Last weekend, we finished setting up the nursery. As we stood in the completed room, surrounded by soft toys and the smell of new furniture, the reality of our impending parenthood really hit home. My fears haven't completely disappeared, but they've been replaced by a sense of determination to be the best father I can be. Felicia has been incredibly supportive, reminding me that we're in this together. We've decided to find out the genders of our babies together as a family. We're planning a small gathering next week where both couples will open their envelopes together. It's become a symbol of our renewed connection and shared journey into parenthood. Looking back, I never could have imagined how this situation would unfold. What started as a misunderstanding and a family rift has transformed into a stronger, more open relationship between all of us. While I know there will be challenges ahead, I'm grateful for how this experience has brought us all closer together. As we prepare to welcome 2 new members into our family, I'm filled with a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. But more than anything, I'm thankful for the support system we've built. Whatever comes our way, I know we'll face it as a united family.